Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics with a really fun and special opportunity for you today. This beautiful autumn quilt, I love how big this is. Autumn Harvest Flannel by Bonnie Sullivan. Maywood Studio is who she designs for. We designed this quilt and we turned it into what's called a rag quilt. All of these seams are up on the top and accentuated with this kind of almost ruffle. If you've always wanted to make a rag quilt, this is your chance. I've been intrigued by them for years. I love making them. They're so much fun. If you're a beginner, you can still do this, even though this looks advanced. Let me just go over how rag quilts differ from a normal quilt, where we piece the top. Once that's done, we get our piece of batting, our backing. We take it usually to a long arm quilter and they quilt that. With rag quilting, it's done as you go. You don't take the project later on to be quilted. Basically, these 4 sections of this block, when we cut out this top flannel, we would also cut out the middle flannel if you choose that. That's an option. Some people don't want their quilt to be quite that warm. I do here in Idaho, as well as the backing. You kind of make a quilt sandwich. You do the same thing here with your gold, your cream, and your backing. You can cut them all at the same time so they're exactly the same footprint. And here, you can then go add quilting in there as we did. I don't know if you can see that, just to hold everything together. That's optional. But then one of my favorite things is that once that's put together, and I'll kind of squeeze this, you can kind of see how this goes together. Isn't that interesting that you put the backs together using a 1/2-inch seam allowance? We sew that. Same thing we did here. And then we do all of this, sew those sections together. And then what creates this beautiful ruffle when it's washed is we use some special scissors. These are so much fun to do. And we go in and we snip about every 3/8 of an inch, very close to our seam allowance, but of course not crossing that. And you snip all of that all the way through, and then you simply throw that into a washing machine and a dryer, and this is what it comes out looking like. It's so cool. So if, again, maybe you're living in a warmer climate and maybe you run hot, you probably don't want that inner portion. That's why we're leaving that as an option. Now, you won't have the cream showing. You will just have your top fabric and then your backing. So you will not have the white showing. But if you're like me, I'm always running cold. It snows a lot up here. I definitely want to have that middle portion. So what we're offering today is you can reserve your kit. There's limited amounts, of course, $10 for that. If you absolutely say, I want that middle of my quilt sandwich to be flannel. We don't use any batting on this. This is in lieu of batting. Be sure to pick up that option. It's a lovely, warm, very warm flannel. And again, pick up the option for your backing. Notice this appliqué. You are correct that that's prefused and laser cut for you so that you can get your pieces, just peel off that paper backing, place that down, and iron that down. And this is the 5-piece thread set that we use to stitch everything down. You can go in and quilt that if you want. I think it always makes it look a little more embossed. I think it's a really nice touch to go ahead and do that. But that's another option. The other option I want to give you is these. These easy action scissors really reduce the fatigue. It's a lot of snipping. Every 3/8, every one of these seams needs to be snipped. You can do that with regular scissors. I've done it, got a blister kind of right in that saddle of my hand. So I recommend these, and they're specifically meant for making rag quilts. If you are going to be joining us for this special opportunity, which really kind of only comes very now and again, if you're a regular watcher of YouTube and our products and emails, you know we haven't had a rag quilt in many years and never for fall. So this is a pretty special opportunity. If you're joining us for this, here's the notions that we use to put the project together. The 2.5 by 24.5 inch. We just thought this was a nice utility ruler, 6.5 by 12.5. Really got our cuts here for these. Wasn't quite big enough for that cut there. We were just kind of moving over in our fabric when we were making those cuts. We used a size 100 needle on this because of the bulk of all of this flannel. Normally we're sewing with a size 80 needle, so if you don't have 100, go ahead and pick up a pack of those. We're using the cool pins instead of our normal extra fine because, again, it's so much bulk and it's more likely to bend those extra fine pins that we do that patchwork with regular lighter weight cotton prints. So we use the cool pins on this. Be sure to get that fresh blade in the rotary cutter, of course, for your nicest, cleanest cuts going into the project. We grab for our Karen K's. We normally have our Kai scissors, but again, due to the bulk, we wanted that next level sharper scissors, so we definitely were grabbing for that. When you're doing rag quilts, remember how I said 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is very foreign to me. I'm used to the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I used my ideal seam guide to help me find that 1/2 inch so that I could find the exact location. Once I used that, I then set my seam guide, which is my fence, so that when I was sewing with my 1/2 inch seam allowance, I was very accurate with where that was located. So those definitely were aids for me to find that 1/2 inch seam allowance, which I very rarely use. So you can see this is a beautiful quilt. I promise you, your family is going to just be like, I want to use that flannel quilt tonight. I know when we have our bonfires toward the fall and the kids come to the house, everyone is always wanting the rag quilts. They're warmer, they're cozier. So this is pretty special that I know your family would covet for years to come. Grab your kit, maybe your middle portion, the backing, your thread set, your scissors, anything else you might need, and I will see you very soon on another Shabby video.